On June 28, 1914, a single gunshot echoed through the streets of Sarajevo. A 19-year-old student pulled the trigger, and that one act would ignite a conflict that engulfed the entire world. It became one of the deadliest wars in human history, the First World War.
January 1916. 140,000 men were assembling for the attack.
In our wood, the front trenches will be taken in the first minutes.
For 3 hours, the German heavy guns. At 7 in the morning, the bombardment.
A war that lasted 4 years, claimed more than 20 million lives, and reshaped the political map of the world. But was it really this one assassination that caused the war? If that young man hadn't pulled the trigger, could the world have avoided this catastrophe? The truth, as we'll discover, is far more complex. Large wars are never the result of one single event. They're the outcome of decades of political tension, competition, and ambition, waiting for a single spark. In this documentary, we'll explore that chain of events, the mountain of dynamite beneath Europe that exploded in 1914. Chapter 1. Europe before the war. Let's begin in Europe at the start of the 20th century. In 1914, the continent was dominated by powerful empires, not democracies. At the center stood the Austro-Hungarian Empire, far larger than present-day Austria or Hungary. To its north and west was the German Empire, newly unified and ambitious. In the east lay the Russian Empire, vast and autocratic. To the south was the Ottoman Empire, ruling much of modern-day Turkey and the Middle East. And then there were the United Kingdom and France, both major colonial powers. Almost all of Europe was ruled by monarchs. In fact, only France, Switzerland, and San Marino were democracies at the time. The rest were kingdoms and empires led by emperors, kings, and czars, many of them even related by blood. Chapter 2. The Balkans. The powder keg of Europe. In southeastern Europe lay a volatile region known as the Balkans, home to countries like Serbia, Bosnia, Bulgaria, and Romania. For centuries, the Ottoman Empire had controlled much of this area, but by the late 1800s, the Ottomans were weakening and nationalist movements were rising. Ethnic groups wanted independence, especially the South Slavs, who dreamed of uniting into one nation. In 1878, a major conflict erupted between the Russian Empire and the Ottoman Empire. After Russia's victory, a peace treaty known as the Treaty of Berlin was signed. According to it, Austria-Hungary was given the right to administer the region of Bosnia and Herzegovina, even though it still officially belonged to the Ottoman Empire. But 30 years later, in 1908, Austria-Hungary decided to annex Bosnia-Herzegovina completely, taking it as their own territory. This angered both the Bosnian people, who had hoped for freedom, and the Serbians, who saw Bosnia as part of a larger Slavic family. Serbia wanted to unite all South Slavs, including Bosnians, into a single nation called Yugoslavia, meaning Land of the South Slavs. Austria-Hungary's annexation crushed that dream and planted the seeds of deep resentment. Chapter 3. Tension builds among the great powers. When Austria-Hungary annexed Bosnia, other powers were drawn into the dispute. Russia, which saw itself as the protector of all Slavic peoples, initially agreed to remain silent in exchange for future control of the Bosphorus Strait near Istanbul. But public outrage in Russia forced it to back Serbia instead. Austria-Hungary turned to Germany, its close ally, for support. Germany promised to defend Austria-Hungary if Russia intervened. On the other side, France was allied with Russia, and Britain was loosely aligned with both through the Triple Entente. Europe was now divided into two major camps: the Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy; the Triple Entente, France, Russia, and Britain. A fragile balance of power hung over Europe, one that could collapse with a single spark. The spark. Assassination in Sarajevo. That spark came on June 28, 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, visited Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. A secret group of young Bosnian nationalists called Young Bosnia, with support from elements inside Serbia, plotted to assassinate him. That morning, one attacker threw a bomb at the Archduke's car. The bomb missed, injuring several bystanders. Later that day, by a twist of fate, the royal car took a wrong turn. Standing nearby was a 19-year-old student named Gavrilo Princip. When he saw the Archduke and his wife Sophie just a few feet away, he drew his pistol and fired 2 shots, killing them both. The assassination shocked Europe. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia and demanded harsh conditions as punishment. When Serbia refused to accept them all, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. What followed was a rapid chain reaction that dragged the entire world into war. Chapter 5. The Chain Reaction. Russia mobilized its army to protect Serbia. Germany, seeing Russia's mobilization as a threat, declared war on Russia. France, bound by treaty, entered the war to support Russia. Germany invaded Belgium to attack France. And this brought Britain into the conflict, as Britain had promised to defend Belgium's neutrality. Within days, nearly all of Europe was at war. The system of alliances that was meant to maintain peace had instead ensured a global catastrophe. Chapter 6. Why were they so eager for war? It's natural to wonder, why did so many countries rush into such a devastating war? There were four major reasons: nationalism, imperialism, militarism, and alliances. 1. Nationalism. Nationalism in the late 19th century wasn't just love for one's country. It was aggressive and competitive. People were taught that their nation was superior and others were inferior. This created rivalries and hatred, especially between France and Germany, and among Slavic peoples in Eastern Europe. 2. Imperialism. European powers were obsessed with expanding their empires. They competed to colonize Africa, Asia, and beyond, to gain resources, wealth, and prestige. This imperial race created jealousy and suspicion among nations. 3. Militarism. Each empire believed that the only way to protect itself and expand was through military power. By 1914, military spending among the six great powers had quadrupled since 1870. Germany and Britain in particular were locked in a naval arms race. 4. Alliances. Finally, the web of alliances turned local conflicts into global wars. If one country went to war, its allies followed, creating a domino effect that no one could stop. Chapter 7. The Human Cost and Propaganda. For ordinary people, the war was not about glory or empire. It was about survival. Most soldiers came from poor families and saw the army as the only job available. Governments used propaganda to convince people that fighting was noble. Newspapers glorified soldiers as heroes, and poets wrote verses celebrating patriotism and sacrifice. One famous British poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade, by Alfred Tennyson, portrayed dying in battle as an act of honor. But later poets, like Wilfred Owen, revealed the grim reality: the mud, the blood, and the horror of trench warfare. Chapter 8. Voices Against the War. Not everyone supported the war. Across Europe and America, socialist and labor movements opposed it, calling it a war for kings and capitalists, not for the people. Writers, thinkers, and humanists, from Henry Ford to Rudyard Kipling, spoke against the glorification of war. Kipling himself, after losing his son in the war, wrote bitterly about its futility. And the poet Thomas Hardy, in his poem, The Man He Killed, asked, "Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we should have sat us down to wet right many a nipperkin." Two men who could have been friends, forced to kill each other because of a war they didn't start. Chapter 9. The Christmas Truce. One of the most touching moments came in December 1914. During Christmas on the Western Front, British and German soldiers emerged from their trenches and met in no man's land.
In the front line, we were about 300 yards from the Germans, and we had, I think, on Christmas Eve, we'd been singing carols and this, that, and the other, and the Germans had been doing the same. Eventually, a German said, "Tomorrow, you no shoot, we no shoot."
They exchanged gifts, sang carols, and even played football. For a brief moment, humanity triumphed over hatred. But the commanders quickly ended the truce and ordered them back to fighting. A tragic reminder of how powerless the common man was in this colossal war. Chapter 10. The World at War. By the end of 1914, World War I had spread far beyond Europe. The Ottoman Empire joined Germany and Austria-Hungary. Britain and France brought in troops from their colonies, including millions from India, Africa, and the Pacific. Japan and the United States would later join the Allies. What began as a European crisis had now become a global war. A war that would reshape nations, topple empires, and change the world forever. In the next part of video, we discuss World War II. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.